People are rolling in, Bev. It looks like we have 21 attendees.
Oh, well, welcome everyone. So glad to have you. So excited about this partnership with the Young Professionals Council Memphis Chamber. Can't wait to get started on this webinar, Conflict Resolution Through a Leadership Lens, which is what we do best at the Institute for Leadership Development, or at least we think we do. So welcome. As you enter, we'd love for you to add to the chat on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being I am a rock star, 1 being, ooh, I didn't do that too well. How did you handle your last conflict? So just a little icebreaker to get us started. Scale of 1 to 10, how did you handle your last conflict? All right. We'll look at those chats in just a minute, but as everybody rolls in, welcome, welcome. I'm Bev Vitale, and I'm excited to get this started. All right, scale of 1 to 10. 1 being I am a rock star. No, 10 being I'm a rock star. 1 being I didn't do that so well. How did you handle your last conflict? Okay.
We have a lot of sevens popping up. That is wonderful.
Good, sevens. That's a great place to start. Absolutely. Wow. I don't think I'd give myself a 7 on my last one. Yeah. Oh, my spouse and I had a little bit of a conflict this morning. We were talking on the phone and I got a little frustrated because I couldn't hear him and he wouldn't roll up the window in his car to talk to me. So I don't think I handled it too well. Right.
It's
Awesome.
okay. That's why we're here today, to gain some more skills.
That's right. Exactly.
We
That's
have a
right. That's
great,
why we're here. Learn a little bit more about conflict. Maybe I could teach myself a little thing or two as we go through this. All right, I'm going to give everybody another minute to pop in, and then I think we have our other sponsor, First South, is going to do a formal introduction of me, but in the meantime, I am Bev Vitale at Christian Brothers University. We are putting in the chat the scale of 1 to 10, 10 being I was awesome with my last conflict, 1 being I've got a lot to learn today. All right, how did you do? We really want this webinar to be as interactive as our technology tools are going to allow us today. So the chat's going to be incredibly important to us as we go through the content. Please don't be shy about using the chat or any emojis, because I could use that encouragement as we go through the content. And we'll have some opportunities if you want to chime in with your voice, not just with chat, please just let us know, raise your hand, and we'll turn on your mic so that you can do that. We'd love to hear your voice as well as see what you're typing in chat. So up to you to make this interactive, but that is the goal for us during this webinar. All right. Takesha, did you want First South to do the introduction?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We are so thankful to our sponsor, CBU, for hosting this event today. We will have a formal introduction from our sponsors at First South. So if you would like to go ahead and open us up with the introduction, we would really appreciate that.
The First South, are we going to have to turn their mic on?
Yes, give us just a second. We're going to get the microphone turned on for Haley. All right, Haley, you should be able to unmute now.
Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yeah, hey Haley.
Oh, hi. Okay. Sorry about that. We were having some technical difficulties. Okay. So first off is honored to sponsor the YPC alongside CBU and STS Enterprise. Our longstanding partnerships with both organizations are rooted in a shared commitment to empowering students through education, access to valuable resources, and meaningful opportunities. Together, we strive to support and strengthen our communities by investing in the next generation of leaders. And today we're excited to continue that mission by welcoming an inspiring voice in leadership and education, Dr. Beverly or Bev Vitale. I'm sorry, Vitale.
No, that's
Is
right,
an-
Vitaly.
Okay,
You're good.
okay,
Thanks, Haley.
Awesome.
It's
Is
a
an
tricky
accomplished
one.
learning and development leader with over 2 decades of experience in designing and delivering transformative leadership development programs across corporate, nonprofit, and government sectors. As the director of the Institute for Leadership Development at Christian Brothers University, she specializes in creating customized curricula that address critical talent development needs and drive organizational excellence. Bev has a proven track record of developing innovative leadership programs that create tangible business outcomes. Her work includes designing year-long leadership development initiatives for emerging leaders in Fortune 50 companies, developing certificates for minority small business owners, and creating leadership programs that have generated significant revenue and achieved top national rankings. Her programs have consistently achieved high net promoter scores and have been recognized for their innovative approach to leadership development, including being named a top 3 leadership development program by HR.com. Her expertise spans executive coaching, organizational development, and strategic talent management. Within Christian Brothers University, Bev brings academic rigor and practical insight to her classroom. A distinguished professor of management, she has won several teaching awards, including Lasallian Educator of the Year, Advisor of the Year, and 2024 Teaching Excellence Award. Dr. Vitale holds a PhD in management from the University of Memphis and has extensive experience collaborating with diverse stakeholders to design impactful learning experiences that drive individual and organizational growth. So let's welcome Dr. Vitale. We're so excited to hear what you have to share with us, and we are so excited to learn from your perspective. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Haley. Wow, you're gonna have to have some water after that long. I appreciate that. I so do. Yeah, and let me tell you a cool fact about the third sponsor, STS Enterprises. Jeremy Calhoun is an alum of CBU. So this is a wonderful 3-party partnership with Young Professionals Council. I'm so excited. CBU is so excited to be part of that. Okay, so while all of that was going on, hopefully you added to the chat. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I was a total mess and 10 I was a rock star. What is it looking like, Chantel? What are our responses look like?
It looks like we started out with lots of 7s. I see a few 8s popping up and then a few 5s here at the end.
Oh, okay. So even with an 8, there's a little bit of room for improvement, and that's why we're here today to see if we can share some tips and some techniques to help with conflict resolution. Because I tell you, I don't think I'd get through a day without some kind of conflict, even if perhaps the other person doesn't know. I might be feeling it inside. So how do I deal with those emotions? So we're going to talk about some of that. We're going to do that in an hour. We're going to solve all the world's problems around conflict in an hour. Let's get going. All right. So what you will need during this webinar is your notebook. So the notebook was attached to the calendar invite, I believe. But if not, we have dropped it in the chat, so you can pick it up there. It's a pretty thick notebook, but you can read along with it, with us on some of this. We've got a lot of great information in that notebook. So it's one of our thicker notebooks, but that just means more information for you on this topic. So you're going to need that notebook and a pen or pencil or something to write with. Okay, so I just want to start out with a reflection. And just this is in your notebook. Just one word to describe how you feel when you hear the word conflict. Are you like, let's go? Or are you like, oh, I hate this? What is your one word when you hear conflict? And then how do you think you deal with it? What is your approach normally to conflict? And then how does your team deal with conflict? Because it's not just personal conflict, but interpersonal conflict. So how does your team at your organization deal with conflict? So I'm going to give you just a few minutes to write these answers down in your notebook just to get our mind around the idea of conflict. So just a few minutes in your notebook, if you will. All right, so I'm going to move on, but I encourage you to drop your answers to those 3 questions in the chat so that as we go through, you can be sharing with your peers how it is what you think about conflict, how you deal with conflict, and then how does your team deal with conflict. So just drop that in the chat as we move forward. All right, so we're going to talk about an assessment that is Thomas and Kill. Thomas and Kill are probably the most famous researchers in the area of conflict. We're actually going to take an assessment that you'll find in your notebook, and it's called the Thomas and Kilmann Conflict Styles Assessment. They look at conflict on 2 dimensions. One is how assertive are you in conflicts? So do you try to satisfy your own concerns, or do you put the concerns of others ahead of yours? And then, so assertiveness is satisfying your own concerns, and then cooperativeness is, are you looking out for the interests of others in the conflict as well? And based upon those 2 criteria, assertiveness and cooperativeness, Thomas and Kilmann talk about 5 different conflict styles. And a person's individual conflict style is a combination of these 5 styles. So no one is purely one style over the other. Even though we will have a preference for 1 or 2 of these styles, we are not pure any one of them. So we're much more complicated than that. But what the assessment will do is give you an indication of how it is that you prefer to deal with conflict. Okay, there are no one best way to deal with conflict, because as we're going to learn, we want to adjust our conflict style based upon the situation. So some situations call for us to be incredibly assertive. Others, we want to be more cooperative. So we want to be able to adjust our conflict style to address the situation that's going on. So there's no best or right conflict style. All 5 modes are useful in some situations. One will be more appropriate in a situation than another. And as leaders, we need to be able to adjust the way that we deal with conflict to match the situation. The effectiveness of any given conflict handling mode depends upon the requirements of those specific situations. And whatever mode you're using, any of the 5 represent a useful set of social skills that we want to develop. So, having said that, just a little bit of background on the assessment. You will find that assessment on pages 2 through 4 in your notebook. So after I give you the instructions, I'll give you a few minutes to fill that out. You're going to answer these questions based upon how you deal with conflict, but also there's a column where you look at how your team deals with conflict. So you may be incredibly assertive and your team be not so much assertive, right? So there's some dynamics going on between you, how you deal with conflict, and how your team does that we can uncover by assessing both of those. So again, that's on pages 2 through 4. For each question, you will answer on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 meaning never, 5 meaning always. And then page 4 is actually a way to score those. So this is going to take you a few minutes. I'm going to be quiet so that you have the ability to focus on that assessment.
There's a question in the chat about where to locate the assessment. It's on pages 2 and 4 of your workbook. It's in the email that was sent to you, and it's also pinned above in the conflict participant document.
Thank you. 2 through 4 in your notebook. That notebook can be found in the chat or in the email. Okay, if you are just joining us, we are in our notebook, which you can find in the chat. We're on pages 2 and 4. We're taking an assessment to see how you handle conflict. So you can pull down that notebook from either the email that was sent out to you or from the chat. And I welcome you to open your notebook to pages 2 to 4 and take that assessment. Right, those of you who are finishing up that assessment, you can read about your highest score I encourage you to do that. You'll find some information about each of the different conflict styles on pages 6 through 12 of your notebook. So grab that pen or pencil and underline the parts of your highest score that you agree with, things that sound like you. So the descriptions of each of the styles can be found on pages 6 through 12. Right. Let me give you just a couple of more minutes to finish up that assessment. Once you do so, make sure that you read about your highest score, and you may have a couple of them that are a tie, which just means you're a little bit more flexible in your conflict handling style, which is always a good thing. So read about your scores on pages 6 through 12. And I'm going to give you a few more minutes to wrap that up. And if you haven't finished the assessment or reading, please continue to do so. But I'd love to open up the floor. You can add to the chat, or if you'd actually like to talk to us, which is always a good thing, then please raise your hand and we can turn your mic on, because I'd love to hear what your number one conflict handling style is. Anybody want to share, either in the chat, sharing what your number one? Oh, I see, collaborate. Good for you. If you read about collaboration, we know that it is a wonderful style when things are very, very important, but it takes a lot of time. So decisions that have to be made quickly, collaboration is not the style to use. But when those decisions are incredibly important, or we need to learn from other people in order to make our decision, then collaboration is a good one. My top is collaborate, and my next is compromise, which I think is both super accurate. Good. Yeah, this assessment I have found is pretty accurate. And when you begin to read about the styles, especially if you think about you versus your team, or you and your team, no versus, right? We're all in this together. But when you read about you and your team, really a lot of times is very accurate about how you are handling conflict. Oh, Jessica's number one is accommodate. That's mine too. And it's a good technique for a couple of things, couple of reasons. One is if you want to just temporarily decide something. So you say to the other person, you know what, I'm going to let you I'm gonna let you win this conflict. That's not exactly how you'd want to say it, right? But they get their way for this, and you say, but let's revisit it, right? Let's see if this works, and then we can revisit it. So accommodating is wonderful for that. Accommodating, both accommodating and avoiding, you kind of have to watch out that you're not taken advantage of, because you tend to be very, very cooperative. And so we want to make sure that we're asserting our needs when appropriate, right? Good. All right, so we're seeing a lot of collaboration, a lot of compromising. All of them are very good. All of them have their pluses and their minuses. Times when we want to use them, times when we don't. So make sure that you read about your style in pages 6 through 12. And then, heck, read about everybody else's, especially other people on your team, so that you understand where they're coming from. All right, good. Seeing more and more collaborating and compromising. All right. So let's learn a little bit more about the model itself. So you see that on the left-hand axis, I think that's the y-axis, if I remember my algebra right. The y-axis, we have styles that are either unassertive or assertive, right? And remember that assertiveness is that you are arguing or putting forth for discussion your needs, right? And there's nothing wrong with doing that. In some situations, we really need to hear what everybody needs, right? So you're good about asserting yourself and saying, hey, this is what I need in order for me to be successful. And so assertiveness is awesome. You don't always want to be assertive, right? So sometimes we want our style to be unassertive. So that's the y-axis. The x-axis is cooperativeness. So how cooperative are you? And remember, cooperativeness is, are you looking out for the needs of others, right? So are you willing to hear what other people need in order to be successful? So styles tend to be either uncooperative or cooperative. And then right there in the middle is that compromise, right? Where we're a little bit assertive, a little bit cooperative, right? So right there in the middle. And as I discussed earlier, there is no one best style, right? A lot of people sometimes think, well, we should always be collaborating because it's cooperative and assertive. But it doesn't make sense in many, many cases, especially when decisions have to be made quickly, when when the decisions are tough and people are not going to agree with them, which has to happen in organizations from time to time. Then we can't spend the time necessary to collaborate so that we all come to an agreement. It may not be possible. Sometimes leaders have to make tough decisions. And so even though collaboration has those beautiful terms attached to it, those terms are not always appropriate. Sometimes we need, in a situation, to not be assertive or not be cooperative, right? So Jeremy says, I feel like competing and collaborative and need to be more accommodating and compromising. Yes, you will lean towards one more than another. And I happen to know Jeremy, and I can see that in him. I can see that he's a little bit competitive, but also collaborative, right? And what those have in common is that Jeremy is assertive, which has served him well. Jeremy and STS Enterprises is doing wonderfully, right? We're so proud of Jeremy as an alum at CBU, and it's partially because he is assertive, right? But there are times when Jeremy needs to not assert himself as much. And as leaders, we want to make sure that we understand that sometimes it's time for our team to assert themselves, right? And we take a back seat. So just learning that, knowing that, having enough self-awareness to say, I usually go into conflicts being real assertive, But that's not what's called for here. What's called for here is for me to kind of back off and let my team be more assertive. All right, good. So there are 3 scenarios in your notebook, and I thought that we might go through these and talk about what style might be most appropriate in each of these situations. So let's start with scenario 1, where employee performance versus family circumstances. So I'm going to give you just a minute to read through that scenario, and if you will, either raise your hand and we'll turn your mic on so you can speak, or put in the chat which of the 5 conflict handling styles do you think would be best for this particular scenario? Okay, so we're starting to get a few responses in the chat. What style is most appropriate? I hear a collaborative. Any other ideas there? And by the way, there is no one right answer to this. There are advantages and disadvantages to each of those styles. Collaborative, Jeremy, good. Compromising, all right. Wonderful. So lots of compromising. Right, like that. Collaborative. So looks like we're kind of shifting between collaborating and compromising. Oh, I see an accommodating. Good. Would any of you be willing to come on the mic and share with us why you chose the style that you did? And again, there's no right answer. There's just an opportunity to discuss it. So who would be willing to come off mic or on mic, I guess, and share why you chose what you chose? Okay, I see a hand up. Chantel, you see that hand? I thought I saw a hand up. Might have disappeared. Just put
No.
your hand up.
Yeah, I do see a hand from Keith Gray, and I will unmute.
Great. So Keith, as soon as you get unmiked or mic'd, why do I keep saying that? As soon as your mic is working, why don't you share with us what you said and why?
Yeah, so I chose collaborative. She seems like a good worker. She's been there with you the whole time. She's crucial to the business success, but she also has something very important coming up. So in my mind, what can we do? What can we work on together to still be successful? And if people are asking for her and they want her around that time of year, I want to make sure that there's a business available that she can come back to and still have a job. So what can we do? Put our heads together so that she can be satisfied, and we can also still run the business effectively. So what ideas can we come up with together to make sure that she's satisfied and so is the business?
Good. Keith, I love this. So remember that collaborating, which is what Keith chose, is both assertive and cooperative, right? So Keith is going to be asserting the needs of the business, right? But he's also going to be willing to hear the needs of the employee, right? So hopefully they can come to an agreement that is beneficial for both of them. So and I loved the fact that Keith said, we will work on it, right? And that's what collaboration is all about. It's when the issue is important enough to both parties that they want to sit down and figure it out together. So I love that response, Keith. Thank you. Anybody want to challenge Keith? And remember, there's no one right answer. So challenging Keith just means that we're learning a little bit more about all the styles. So anybody willing to get their mic hot and tell us what you put and why.
Let's see someone's hand up. Let's see.
Any hands?
Yeah, there is one. I'm trying to get to it. I can't see who that is.
Yeah, give us
Oh,
just a minute.
Rebecca. Rebecca,
all
are
hear
you
me?
able to? Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we can.
Okay. I thought about collaboration at first, but based on the statement that she seemed nervous and that stressed out by the whole situation, I thought leading maybe with the compromise would open up the conversation to maybe deep diving further into that collaborative side, but it sounds like she needs support at this time, which is why I went with that.
Wonderful. So Rebecca went, I love this. Rebecca, it's a really good thought process. She went with compromise because she was looking at the needs of the employee and how the employee was feeling about things, right? So using some emotional intelligence to understand best how to approach the conflict, which is what we always want to do as leaders. Right? It's just because if we bully our way into a situation and bullying is the competing style. Hate to tell it to you, competitors, by the way, sometimes competing is good. But if we use competing when our employee needs a softer touch, right? Then we may lose that relationship and the trust and probably eventually the employee, right? So we have to match our conflict style with the an emotional intelligence look at how the other person is going to perceive the situation as well. So I love that. Thank you, Rebecca. All right, let's move on to scenario 2, the vendor relationship crisis. And I'll give you a minute to work that out, and if you will, put your answers in the chat. All right, you're having issues with your vendor, a little conflict with your vendor. What conflict handling style do you think would be best here? How would you and your vendor be best served in this conflict? Jessica says competing. It's a good strategy that you're like, I can't handle it. Yeah, I can't put up with this. You know, I'm going to assert my needs above the vendor's needs. Vendor, you're going to have to meet me because I'm not backing down. Right? I've got other vendors I can go to. I'm not doing this. Right. So competing is looking after your needs. And of course, when you're looking after your needs as a leader, you're looking after the needs of the organization, right? So saying, I just can't do it. You're going to have to, you vendor are going to have to make the adjustment. I'm not making the adjustment. So that's what competing would look like. I see some collaborating. All right, Veronica, I love this idea that that you would shift, that you would start out collaborating, but then perhaps shift if that doesn't work. That is great leadership, right? Where we try one style and realize I'm not getting anywhere. I'm going to have to shift to get both parties what it is they want, or perhaps just what I need, or perhaps just what they need, right? But I love that. Compromising, collaborating. So just like with the first scenario, there's a lot of styles that we can use. But what's important is that you are able to think through any conflict that's happening and adjust your style, because look, hey, Keith is saying compromising, and he may be accommodating in his preferred style. So when he took that assessment, he might have come out accommodating, but he knows as a leader, I've got to be able to pivot to match the situation. And so that's what's important in these, is that you as a leader are able to read the situation and decide what's best for you, your team, and your organization. What style are you going to use? All right, let's practice one more. Number 3, client expectations versus business reality. Uh-oh. Right, Dion saying collaborating. All right, we got some pressure from a client. I'm going to leave you if you don't drop some other clients. Ooh. Put you in a bind there. And how are you going to respond? Dion says, you know what, this is important enough that I need to sit down with that client and see if we can come up with a solution that suits both of us. It's what collaboration is all about. Thank you, Dion, for that one. Jessica says, I would say collaborate, and then again, I might switch, right? So collaboration, if it's not going well, then heck, there's going to come a point where I'm going to put my foot down, right? And I'm going to shift over to compete. I love that. Love that y'all are understanding that as leaders, we have to pivot. We have to read the situation in a conflict and pivot our style, even if that style feels uncomfortable. You know, I told you at the beginning, I'm accommodating, that there are times when I have to get out of my shell, right? I have to put myself out there and compete. Even though it doesn't feel natural to me, it is what's best for the situation. So you are beginning, I think or you may probably know this intuitively, that we as leaders have to pivot and do what's best in the situation. All right, Keith says there he's going to start with accommodation. All right, so opposite end from collaboration, and then if I need to, I'll shift to compromising. All right, love this. What a great discussion. I appreciate y'all reading through these and participating in the chat. It makes it so much more engaging. All right, we have a few more minutes left. So I'd like to take just a couple of minutes. I do have some closing slides about some upcoming opportunities we have that I want to share with you. But before we go there, I would love to hear any questions or comments that you have about the content that we've covered today.
Yeah, one hand up. Keith Gray.
Oh,
Are you
Keith, yes.
Just this little bit of time that I've spent with you, going over these different scenarios and taking an inward look at myself has been very helpful. So it's something I'm going to take back to my team and to my leaders as well. But I really do appreciate this. I think maybe going over some of these styles and recognizing them when I'm doing my one-to-ones with my team who report to me, it's going to be very helpful and working out some conflicts.
Great. Oh, I love that, Keith. And I love the idea of sharing even the assessment with your team and your direct reports, and encouraging them to stretch themselves in different situations, so that if they're avoiding or accommodating or collaborating and they need to push themselves to use different styles, then that is a great development opportunity that you can give them. Thank you for that, Keith. Love it. Rebecca.
So I'm wondering if you have any suggestions around the generational divide, especially when it comes to like experience and how you handle like my conflict resolution is in that collaborating side, but sometimes I feel that there's a need to defer to the people with more experience. How do you handle that dichotomy?
Love that, Rebecca. That is such a great question. And first, let me say that the intelligent answers about that is within your peers. So I hope people will add to the chat any ideas that they have for Rebecca. But as we wait for that, I'll go ahead and answer you from my perspective. So the generations don't have different personalities, right? So within one generation, we're still going to see the different personalities. So we're still going to see people who have each of the 5 conflict handling styles. But what we will see, and I think this is what you were referring to, is some generations are more comfortable pushing back. The newer generations into the workforce are a little bit more comfortable pushing back on management, right? Than say my generation that definitely followed the chain of command, right? And there's beauty in that, right? Because this new generation is all about equality, right? And equity. And we see that in the way that they approach the organization, that you may have a CEO title, but I know you're the same as me. And so I know that you will love this comment, right? So one of the things we try to do at CBU is teach our students that when they go into a new organization, they need to know the rules of the game, right? And each organization is a little bit different on how they would handle some pushback from a lower employee. So they, and if you are managing somebody in a younger generation, you yourself are probably in that younger generation as well. You have to know those rules of the game. Will somebody who has a position higher than you respect that pushback? And also keep in mind that if you approach that in a way that is emotionally intelligent, where you are making sure that what you're saying, the other person feels safe hearing it, then you can probably even in an organization that follows the chain of command, be able to have some of those conversations. So that is a great question, Rebecca. Let's see, I know you're putting your name and titles in the chat. Chantel, did we see any more ideas for Rebecca?
No.
Okay. Rebecca, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, every generation, what they want is to feel valued at work and to know that what they do is making a difference. But the different generations do show that in different ways. So I love that question. Love it. Okay.
We do-
So
We do
I
have a
want to tell
question
you
from-
about a program that we have coming up beginning in August at CBU. It's called Advancing into Management, or the AIM certificate. It is designed for emerging leaders, so individual contributors who think, you know what, I think I might want to try management. What's that all about? What skills do I need to move into management? So it's designed for emerging leaders as well as new managers. So you may be a brand new manager and not feel real comfortable, for example, giving feedback, or not feel real comfortable holding people accountable. So this program is designed to provide you with those skills. Now, if you are an established manager, we still would love to have you because sometimes we need a refresher. We need to go back to the basics and remember what it's like to have conversations that are emotionally intelligent. So, but if you are interested in management or are a new manager, then we really encourage you to take a look at this Advancement in Management program. So it is a series of 22 workshops. We'll start it in August. It'll go until the middle of December. You only have to come to 8 to get the certificate. Each workshop is 3.5 hours. So we have plenty of time to really dig deep into topics like building trust and rapport, or work-life integration, or providing feedback. So 22 different, what we call leadership labs. Come to 8 and you earn that certificate. Each of those leadership labs is $495, but man, do I have a deal for you today, because we as partners with YPC, we're giving all YPC members a 20% discount on that. So you can, $495 becomes less than $400 just with that 20% discount. We also, one of our workshops, the very last one, is going to be free, right? So you wouldn't have to pay for that one. And we're going to give you credit for that handling conflict through a leadership lens. You've been through an hour of that 3.5 hour lab, so we would give you credit for that. So once you package all that together, your YPC members are getting quite a discount on the certificate. If you're interested at all, please, please, please take a look at the information that Chantel just dropped in the chat. This is a beautiful flyer that talks about learning outcomes, has a list of all of the 22 sessions. And again, you only have to pick 8 of those, and you're getting credit for one of them, and one of them's free. But it has all this beautiful information. But one thing we forgot to put on there is my contact information. So Chantel, I'm going to get you to put that in the chat as well. So if you're interested in this program, or if anybody at your organization you think might be interested, please download that flyer that Chantel has put in the chat. And then she's also put my contact information. Okay, look at that. I am finishing 5 minutes early. All right, our next one of these Lunch and Learns is The Art of Healthy Dialogue. That will be on August the 13th, same time. All right, Chantel, any closing remarks?
Don't see any. Oh, well,
Okay.
there is one. Jeremy Calhoun asked if we did team training, and then you dropped in the information and went over our team training. So there we go.
Yeah, we do. The Institute for Leadership Development would love to come to your organization and do team training. And we also, one of our workshops for this AIM certificate is about teams. So we talk about teams throughout the curriculum.
I see a
Yes.
hand up from Jeremy Calhoun.
Jeremy, yes. Jeremy just finished. He'll graduate on
Yeah,
Friday from
yeah.
another one of our programs. I'd love to hear a testimonial, Jeremy.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, we definitely value CBU sponsorship and partnership with the YPC. So just wanted to see if anyone on the call would be willing to do a testimonial. It could be a written testimonial, but we definitely want to share this with the rest of our members, so they can begin to see and know that there's value being created through this partnership, but also the type of value that they can create in an hour. This 1 hour, I know Keith, Rebecca mentioned how this was helpful. So we just want to be able to share that with our members. So if anyone's willing, definitely would love to connect with you so we can share your testimony with the rest of our membership.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Would you like for them to reach out to you or put it in the chat, or how do you want that to work?
Yeah, if they can just reach out to Keisha, do you want them to reach out to the chamber website? Do you want me to give them my email? Or maybe we can put it in a survey. Maybe we can put it in a survey.
Yes,
If there
we'll send
was-
a follow-up survey.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Takesha, anything else we need to do before we wrap up?
No, thank you so much, Dr. Bev. Thank you, Chantal. Thank you, Haley. We are so appreciative to all of you that were able to join us on today. We hope that you got something valuable from today's session. Again, if you are interested in the AIM program, or if you are interested in getting your master's, please reach out to Dr. Bev and her team so that they can tell you about the awesome incentives they have for YPC members to take advantage of these opportunities. If you are looking for any type of financial advice, please reach out to our sponsors at First South. Haley will be happy to help you. She was the one that did the introduction earlier. And then also our sponsors at STS, if you're interested in getting into mentorship and mentoring, please reach out to them as well. We pray that you have an amazing rest of your week, and thank you so much for your time and engagement today.
Great. And one more thing that I wanted to mention, when you mentioned the MBA, it triggered my mind. If you complete the AIM certificate, if you take 8 of those classes, you're getting credit for one of them today. You can also earn credit towards the MBA at CBU. So that certificate, even though it's non-credit bearing, can transfer into the MBA for an MBA class if you meet all the other requirements for the MBA. All righty. Well, thank you. And I'm giving you a minute of your day back. I appreciate it. And we hope to see you on August 13th.